Hello, student. Yeah, we completed with the first chapter, right? We completed with the first chapter, that is natural resources. Now we are going to discuss with the second chapter, the second chapter of the science. What is the second chapter of the science you want to discuss is the our environment. To study our environment, to study the what are the things that present in our environment is very interesting, right? To study what are the things that present in the environment. Before that, first you want to know that what is environment. Why we are going to discuss with this environment concept. Okay. First, if you start with what is environment means, yeah, can you tell the definition for the environment? What is environment? Any of you? Any of you, can you tell the definition of environment? What we call it as an environment exactly? What is environment means? All the particles, all the matters surround us. We call it as an environment. All the particles, all the matters, everything that what is surrounded us is called as an environment. Correct? All the particles, all the matters that surround us, we call it as an environment. Therefore, what are the environment that present in the earth? If you see the earth, the mother earth, what are the environment that present in the earth? If you see the general classification, what are the things or what are the environment that present in the earth means, first I will tell the classification, how it is classified. First, if you see our mother earth, in the earth, the first we consider the environment is divided into the three spheres. Environment is divided into the three spheres. What are the three important spheres means? First one, lithosphere. We will discuss all one by one. First, if you see that the earth atmosphere, the earth environment is divided into the three spheres. What are these three spheres? I said that the first one is the lithosphere. Next, we are going to discuss with the hydrosphere. Next, we want to discuss with the atmosphere. These are the three important areas in which the environment is divided. What are the three important areas the environment is divided into? The first one is lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. Earth environment is divided into lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere. Again, these three, the area combine each other. We called as an biosphere. Here the atmosphere is divided into the three layers. One is lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. Again, these three layers, we combine each other to call it as an biosphere. What is this biosphere? We will discuss it later. Again, this biosphere is divided into the ecosystem. The biosphere, we call that as the biosphere is also called as an ecosystem. In ecosystem, we get the main four parts. What are the four important parts of the ecosystem means? That is ecological pyramid, you will see. You will discuss this ecological pyramid. Then we are going to discuss with the biological magnification. Next, food web. And the next is the food chain. These are the processes that present in the ecosystem. What are that happens in the ecosystem means ecological pyramid is the one of the important thing. Next, biological magnification. Next, food web. And next, the food chain. One more time, I will say the classification of the environment. If you see the classification of the environment of the earth, first it divided into the three types. The first is lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. Again, these three combine each other to form the biosphere. Again, the biosphere is also called as an ecosystem. This ecosystem have the mainly the four sub-branches. That is of the ecological pyramid, biological magnification, food web, and the last one is the food chain. After seeing this classification, now we are going to discuss with one by one. Okay. If you see the first, if you see the earth, can you guess what is the age of the earth? It's billions years ago the earth is formed, right? And also if you see that the earth is the one unique planet in which the life exists. If I want to tell that how the earth come, how the that we want to discuss with that Big Bang theory. Okay, we don't want here the Big Bang theory. We don't want here, but you want to know that. Okay, for several billions years ago, the Big Bang, the concept of the Big Bang will come here. Then you get the Earth. After so many reactions that takes place in the Earth, then the life exists on the Earth. After the conversion of the so many reactions, so many years takes place to convert the substances on the Earth, then it convert into our Mother Earth. So long process it is. We don't want that long process. We want only know how the Earth, the atmosphere. Okay. If you see that, first we discuss about the hydrosphere. What is this hydrosphere? Hydro. What is this hydro? And what is this sphere? Hydro is nothing but water. Hydro, the meaning of the hydro means water. Sphere means area. Therefore, what is this hydrosphere? What we call as a hydrosphere? The area in which the water is present. We call that area as a hydrosphere. What is hydrosphere? You understood? Hydro means water. Sphere means area. Therefore, what is hydrosphere? The area in which the water is present. The area in which the water is present, that area we call it as an hydrosphere. What is the unique nature of the water? Why we are going to give the one particular stage for the water? Why we want water? Is there any usefulness in the water? Yes, you have lot of useful in the water, right? And also if you see that the water is used as a universal solvent also. Water is considered as a universal solvent. Why water is considered as a universal solvent? Why water is considered as a universal solvent? And if you see the characteristics of the water, what are the important characteristics of water? Water is colorless, water is odorless, water is tasteless, and also water is considered as the universal solvent. Why water is considered as the universal solvent? Why water is considered as the universal solvent means water dissolves almost all every particles in it. It dissolves mud, it dissolves soil, it dissolves some of the gases, it dissolves almost all the solute particle in it. That's why the water is considered as the universal solvent. If you see the hydrosphere, here almost all 97% of our earth is covered with the water, right? 97%, that means the 97% of the earth is covered by the ocean water. Remaining 3% is covered with the that river water, okay, lake water. Like that, remaining part is present as a river water, lake water. If you see how many percentage of drinking water is there, if you see what is the percent of the drinking water, it is 0.001%. Only 0.001% of drinking water is present for us. First of all, what is hydrosphere? Understood? The area in which the water is present. The area in which the water is present is called as an hydrosphere. After the hydrosphere, the next one come to the lithosphere. What is this lithosphere means? The area, that means the surface or the crust, the earth crust. We call it the earth crust as an lithosphere. Earth crust we call it as an lithosphere. Hydrosphere means the layer in which the water is present is called as an hydrosphere. What is this lithosphere means? The surface in which the surface or the crust of the earth. That means it is in the inside. If you see, if you think that, imagine that if you are cutting the earth means the middle portion, the inside the middle portion of the earth, we call it as an lithosphere. What is lithosphere? The area in which the crust of the earth is present is known as lithosphere. In the earth crust only, we are getting the so many useful substances. Right? We are getting the so many useful surfaces from the earth crust only. Can you give an example for such like that? Some of the substances which are getting from the earth crust. Can you give some of the examples further? What are the substances that it getting from the earth crust we are using as a useful material? The best examples are the minerals. Okay, we are getting the so many minerals from the earth crust. Example, gold, silver, iron, aluminium, platinum. These are the minerals that are getting from the earth crust. Okay, getting from the earth crust. This is having the so many usefulness, right? It has its own usefulness. Gold is used in the ornaments. Iron is used for constructions of buildings. Every minerals that are getting from the earth crust, they have their respective uses. Okay, the two concepts understood. One is the hydrosphere and another one is the lithosphere. What is this hydrosphere? The area in which the water is present is known as hydrosphere. What is this lithosphere? The area in which the crust of the earth is present is known as lithosphere. And if you study the next division of the earth surface is of the atmosphere. What is this atmosphere? Yeah, what you consider as the atmosphere? All the particles, that vapors, dust particles, water vapor, moisture of water, gases, so many gases are present around us, right? So many gases, water vapors, so many mixtures of gases, everything is present around us, right? This area we called as an atmosphere. What is atmosphere? The area in which the mixture of gases, water vapors, moisture, dust particles, everything present around us. We consider that as an atmosphere. If you see in the atmosphere, the 78% of nitrogen gas is present. In the atmosphere, how many percentage of the nitrogen gas is present? In the atmosphere, we have 78% of the nitrogen gas. And also 21% of the oxygen gas is present. Therefore, in our atmosphere, which is the gas that presents more than oxygen, that is nitrogen. Where we use this nitrogen means we use this nitrogen in the nitrogen fixation of the plants. Okay, we use this nitrogen in the nitrogen fixation of the plants. Understood? This atmosphere, the area in which the mixture of gases present, water vapors present, and also the moisture, dust particles, everything that present in the area, that area we call it as an atmosphere. After studying the atmosphere, and in the atmosphere you want to know that 78% of nitrogen is present and also 21% of the oxygen is present. After studying the atmosphere, all these three together, that is all the three, atmosphere, lithosphere, hydrosphere. Hydrosphere, lithosphere, atmosphere. All this togetherly called as an biosphere. All these three things togetherly called as an biosphere. What is this biosphere means? In this area only, in this area of the earth only, the life exists. That means what is the area what we present now, we call this area as, or this surface as an biosphere. What is this biosphere? The area in which the life exists. The area in which the life exists is known as the biosphere. Therefore, we discuss with, in the surface of the environment, we discuss with the lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere. All these three togetherly called as an biosphere. And next, the next important concept you want to study in the biosphere is the ecology. What is this? Ecology. What is this ecology means? It is the study of, what is ecology means? I am telling the definition of ecology. What is this ecology means? It is the study of relationship between organism and environment. It is a good relation. We have the good relationship between us and our environment, right? That study we call it as an ecology. We study that relationship by one process that we call as an ecology. What is ecology? The study of relationship between the organism and environment. The study of relationship between the organism and environment. We call it as an ecology. You understood what are the things we are going to discuss? Discuss with the hydrosphere, lithosphere, atmosphere, biosphere, ecology. Now we are going to discuss with interconversion among the living organism. What is this interconversion of the living organism? If you see that we almost all living organisms are depending on one another, right? That means if we human beings depend on the some of the organisms and some of the plants means, then that organisms also depend upon the some of the animals and plants also. Just take the some example. If you see the frog depend upon the insects. Insect depends upon the grass. Again, the snake depend upon the frog. Eagle depend upon the snake. Eagle was eaten by some of the other animals. That other animals is eaten by humans. Okay, like this, the chain will be present, right? Almost all living organisms are related to each other. This we call it as an interaction among the living organisms. This is how we are interconnected. Almost all living organisms are interconnected. Maybe you understood everything here what I written on the board. Now we are going to discuss about the next part, that is the ecosystem. We are going to discuss about the ecosystem. What is this ecosystem and what are the things that present in the ecosystem? We are going to discuss with ecosystem. We are going to discuss with the ecosystem. Okay, we are going to discuss with the definition of ecosystem and everything we will cover. Before studying the ecosystem and what are the types of ecosystems we have, we want to study about some other important concepts which related to the ecosystem. What are the such important concepts we are going to study for before the ecosystem means? First, we want to discuss with the level of organism. What are this organism? What is organism called as? What are species? What are populations? Everything, and what are this biotic community? This everything we want to know before studying the ecosystem. Okay. If you see that, first we are going to discuss with this organism. What are organism? What we call it as an organism? What is organisms? Organisms are the one who's having the life, right? The organisms are one who's having the life. That we call it as an organism. Is the human being is an organism? Yes, of course, we are the organisms. And some other so many organisms are also present. If you see that, what are the species means? Completely the whole species, all species are considered as an organism. Therefore, what is this species means? If you see that the individual members Okay, the individual members. In the organism, so many organisms are there, like human beings, amphibian, reptiles. Like that, you have so many organisms. If you want to study the each single human beings, reptiles, amphibians, like this, if you want to study separately the group of organisms or individual studying of the individual organisms, we called as an species. We called the species, how we called as the species means the individual study. The individual study of the some group of organisms. That means that individual group of organisms we called as a species. Species. Next, we are going to discuss with the population. This population means you know that we will stay in the group, right? The human beings almost all present in the group. That group we called as an population. The grouping of that individual, the grouping of the human is known as the grouping of the human organisms we called as an humans. Grouping of the reptiles in one specific group means we call that as an reptiles. Okay, like that. The grouping takes place for the respective individuals. The grouping of the respective individual organism, we call that as an population. What is population? The grouping of individual particular organisms, we call that as an population. Understood these three concepts? One is organism, species, population. After studying this population, next we are going to discuss with this biotic community. What is this biotic community? If you see what is this biotic community means, all these different populations, okay, all the different populations of the respective species we considered in the one group, we call that group as an biotic community. What is this biotic community? All the different groups of populations is present. All the different group of populations is present in one particular community. That community we called as an biotic community. We call that as an biotic community. Understood the four concepts: organism, species, population, biotic community. These are the four important concepts of the levels of organism you want to study. What are these four levels of organism? First is you want to study about the definition of organism. Next, species, population, biotic community. Now we are going to discuss with this ecosystem. What is this exactly the ecosystem? Ecology is different, ecosystem is different. If you see what is this ecology means, it is the study of relationship between the living and environment. Living organism and the environment is known as the ecology. Here we are going to discuss with the ecosystem. What is this ecosystem means? It is the interaction. It is studying of the relationship between the interaction between the living and non-living components. The study of reaction or the study of interaction between living and non-living components. The interaction of the living and non-living components. The interaction between the living and non-living component we call as an ecosystem. What is ecosystem? The study of interaction between the living and non-living component is known as ecosystem. Now we are going to discuss with the types of ecosystem. What are the important types of ecosystems? Okay, now we are going to discuss with the types of the ecosystem. Okay, if you see the types of the ecosystem, generally the ecosystem is classified into the natural ecosystem and man-made ecosystem. How the ecosystems are classified? First of all, what is ecosystem? The interaction of the living and non-living organisms. The interaction of the living and non-living organisms we call as an ecosystem. In the ecosystem, there are two types. One is natural ecosystem and another one is the man-made ecosystem. What is natural ecosystem? The ecosystem that is present in the nature. The ecosystem that is present in the nature we call it as a natural ecosystem. And what is man-made ecosystem? The ecosystem which is made by man. That is natural ecosystem. The ecosystem that is made by the nature. Ecosystem is made by the nature, then that ecosystem is known as the natural ecosystem. And the ecosystem made by the man, that is known as the man-made ecosystem. These are the two types of the ecosystem. In the natural ecosystem, again it is classified into the aquatic ecosystem and terrestrial ecosystem. How the natural ecosystem is classified? First of all, the ecosystem is classified into two types: natural ecosystem and man-made ecosystem. Then in the natural ecosystem, again the ecosystem is classified into two types. One is aquatic ecosystem and the next one is the terrestrial ecosystem. What is this aquatic ecosystem means? The ecosystem in which the aquatic animals are present. Aqua means water. Therefore, the ecosystem surrounded the water. All the aquatic animals, aquatic plants, what are the things that are present in the water? We consider that ecosystem is the aquatic ecosystem. What is aquatic ecosystem? The system, that the ecosystem in which the water particle, the water organism, plants and everything what related with the water is present, that ecosystem we call it as an aquatic ecosystem. And the next one is the terrestrial ecosystem. Other than all the aquatic ecosystem, all other than the water, what are the ecosystem present, that ecosystem is called as a terrestrial ecosystem. And if you see what is this, you already know that what is man-made ecosystem. The ecosystem made by the man, we call it as a man-made ecosystem. Best examples, aquarium. The aquarium is made by man, right? It is not a natural ecosystem. Aquarium, that way it is called as an, it is of the aquatic ecosystem. That way we call it that as an aquarium. The aquarium is an example for the man-made ecosystem. Understood? The types of ecosystem and the definition of ecosystem. After knowing the definition of ecosystem and the types of ecosystem, now we are going to discuss with what are the components that present in the ecosystem. What are the important components that present in the ecosystem? What are those important components means? If you see that the first important component of the ecosystem is the abiotic ecosystem. ABIOTIC, abiotic ecosystem. What is this abiotic ecosystem means? Abiotic components, not abiotic components means the component in which only the non-living things are present. In the component, only if the non-living things are present, like soil, mud, okay, soil, mud, rock, stone, all the non-living things. If all the non-living things present in the one group or one community, that community we call it as an abiotic components. That community we call that as an abiotic components. After discussing with this abiotic components, next we are going to discuss with biotic components. What are these biotic components? The same thing, the community in which the living components are present. All the living organisms like animals, plants, okay, everything is present. Like this community, we call that as an biotic components. The community in which all the living organisms are present, then that community we call that as an biotic components. That community we call this as an biotic components. After studying the biotic components, next we are going to discuss with the autotrophs and heterotrophs. In this biotic components only, these two things will come. In the biotic component, there are two things. One is of the autotrophs and another one is of the heterotrophs. What are these autotrophs means? Auto means same. Okay, own, dependent on its own. Auto means same. What is this autotrophs means? Any of the living organism depends on their own food. Okay, the food is not taken by any other organisms. If the organism depends on their own food, then that type of organisms or that type of the plants we called as an autotrophs. Any of the organisms or any of the things which depends upon their own food, that we considered as the autotrophs. Therefore, almost all the plants are autotrophs only, right? Almost all the plants are prepare their own food. How the plants prepare their own food? By the process of photosynthesis, right? By the process of photosynthesis, all the plants obtain their own food. Therefore, the plants we considered as the autotrophs. What are autotrophs? The plants are the substance or the organisms which depends on their own food, that we considered as the autotrophs. Therefore, we consider plant as an autotrophs. And also for the plants, we consider given the name why it prepare their own food, right? That why we gave the name for the plant as producer. Producer means here they're preparing their own. Okay, they're preparing their own food. That's why we call this as a producer. What are autotrophs? The plants considered as an autotroph in which it prepare their own food. That's why we call it as a producer. And what is this heterotrophs? Hetero means dependent. Hetero is nothing but dependent. The organisms which depends on the other foods. The organisms which depend on the other food. We call them as an heterotrophs. Therefore, best example for the heterotrophs are animals. Animals are the best example for the heterotrophs, right? Animals always depend the food on the other organisms. That's why we call the animals as the consumers. Why we call the animals as the consumers? Why means it depends on the food. It depends the food on the other animals. That's why we call the animals as the heterotrophs. And also we call the animals as the consumers. Understood? What we call as in consumers? Producer, consumers, everything. Now we are going to discuss with the food chain. Now we are going to discuss with the concept of the food chain. Okay. Now we are going to discuss with the food chain. What is this food chain and what are the things we are going to discuss with the food chain? What is this exactly? The food chain means it is the nutrition relationship. Food chain, food represents the nutrition, right? The food represents the nutrition. What is this food chain means? The nutrition relationship. The nutrition relationship between the one organisms to the another organism. The nutrition relationship between the one organism to the another organism in which the energy is converted. Okay, in the form of energy, the nutrient is converted from the one organism to the another organism. This concept we call it as a food chain. What is this food chain? We call the food chain as the nutrition relationship between the organisms where the energy is converted from the one organism to the another organism. That we call it as a food chain. If you see the examples for the food chain, the best example for the food chain, just I am giving some examples to it. If you see the best examples, the grass. The grass we call as a primary consumer. What is this primary consumer? The consumer, I already said that consumer, producer, okay, producer and consumer. What is this primary consumer means? First that plant, the grass is considered as the producer. Okay, this is the producer. That is, it depends upon their own food. Okay, the grass depends upon their own food. Therefore, the grass is considered as the producer. After the producer, the primary consumer will come. Okay, this is the producer. After producer, the one who eats this producer, the one who eats this producer, we call as a primary consumer. Again, this primary consumer is eaten by someone. This primary consumer is eaten by the some of the organism. That organism we call it as a secondary consumer. First, it comes the producer. This producer was eaten by the primary consumer. Again, the primary consumer was eaten by the secondary consumer. One who eat the primary consumer, we call it as a secondary consumer. Again, this secondary consumer was eaten by the tertiary consumer. This is the food chain. Okay, what is the food chain? In the food chain, the producer was eaten by the primary consumer. Again, that primary consumer was eaten by the secondary consumer. Secondary consumer was eaten by the tertiary consumer. This is how exactly the food chain takes place. Understood? How exactly? This is the one food chain. That is, the grass was eaten by the grasshopper, and again the grasshopper was eaten by the frog. The frog was eaten by the snake. This is the one food chain. If you see the another food chain, this is of the aquatic food chain. Okay, this is the aquatic food chain. In this, the phytoplankton. This is the one type of the plant that present in the aquatic system. This phytoplankton, the plant present here, this phytoplankton is the producer. This producer was eaten by the zooplankton. Zooplankton here, the zooplankton is the secondary consumer. So, it's the primary consumer. This producer was eaten by the primary consumer. Again, that primary consumer was eaten by the secondary consumer, the fishes. Okay, the zooplankton was eaten by the fishes. After that, the fishes was eaten by the aquatic birds. Therefore, here the tertiary consumer is the aquatic birds. This is how the food chain goes on. This is of the food chain of the tertiary, and this is for the food chain for the aquatic. Understood? After this, next we are going to discuss with the herbivorous food chain. What is this herbivorous food chain? Herbivorous means the animals that eat only the plants are known as herbivorous animals. What are herbivorous? The animals which are eat only the plants are known as herbivorous. Therefore, what is carnivorous then? The carnivorous means the animals which eat only the animals. Omnivorous means which eat both plants and animals. We are the omnivorous, Homo sapiens, right? We are Homo sapiens. We eat both the plants and animals. That's why we call it as an Homo sapiens. Therefore, herbivorous means the animals which eat only the plants. Example, cow, buffalo, giraffe. Like that, these are some of the examples for the herbivorous. Therefore, what are carnivorous? The animals which eat only the animals. Example, lion, tiger, cheetah. Like this, we can give the example for the carnivorous. And also, the some that we said that omnivorous. Omnivorous means the animals which eat both the plant and animals. We call them as the omnivorous. Example for that is we can give so many examples for the omnivorous, like human beings. Okay. Next, we are going to study with the detritivorous. Detritivorous. What are these detritivorous? Means the animals which depends on only the detritivore. That means like ants, termites. Okay, it depends upon only the small organisms. That type of animals are known as detritivorous. And the next one, parasitic. What is this parasitic means? Here, the primary, that means in the first stage of the consumer should be the plants. Parasites means plants. Okay. I said that the parasites is nothing but plants. It depends on the plants. Finally, all this interconnection, interlinking, all this study we are going to discuss with the one circular or one in systematic way. That systematic way we call it as a food web. This systematic thing we call it as a food web. Therefore, in this concept, we study about earth, we study the environment, we study lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, we completed. Biosphere, we completed. Ecosystem, we completed with the ecosystem definition and the type of the ecosystem. Next, we completed with this food chain, food web. These two concepts is completed. Therefore, in the next class, we are going to discuss with the ecological pyramid. What is this ecological pyramid and how we are going to discuss with the biological magnification. These are the two important concepts left in this chapter. These are the two important concepts left with this chapter. In the next class, we are going to discuss with this concept. That time, bye students.